I didn't intend to, but the way life happens, I ended up getting international recognition. That's one of the things that I'm satisfied. I ended up getting international recognition for work in two fields. I mean, it's hard enough to get international recognition for work in one field, but international recognition for work in Lie theory, and also secondly, mathematical physics. So I'm satisfied that there's some understanding of the work I did in these two areas of my work. The second thing is, I'll call it two things: productivity and acceptance. I guess I'm a workaholic. I have just published many papers, over 100 papers. But when you publish, when you finish a paper, you have to submit it to a journal, and it has to be accepted. So out of more than 100, I've probably published 110 papers at least. And I think I've only had 2 or 3 of them are rejected. So the productivity of my work, I'm satisfied with that. And then you can produce a lot of work, but it needs to be accepted by a publisher as well. And then the third thing, back in 2013, I was inducted as a fellow of the American Mathematical Society. So that's quite an honor for as an American mathematician. It's both. I mean, there are problems out there. I mean, that's what science, I guess, pick any field, but if you're a mathematical scientist, you are trying to solve problems. Some go back hundreds of years. I mean, we had the solution of Fermat's last theorem, because that was solved by a tremendous mathematician. But there are many problems that people just don't know about because it's not important for their everyday lives, even though it affects their lives. I mean, I mentioned cell phones. If you go to hospital, if talk about a cancer patient, you're talking about nuclear physics. You're talking about chemistry. For chemotherapy, radiation, that's nuclear physics, that's chemistry. It's basic science, and all that's based upon mathematics to a great extent. Quantum theory, Schrodinger's equation governs, in the book that I wrote, it governs quantum physics. It's mathematical. It's a mathematical equation. So it's a lot of, yes, a lot of excitement around it, but it's a lot of frustration too, because you can bang your head years trying to solve a problem. Many mathematicians have been trying to solve the so-called Riemann hypothesis, one failure after another. Even one of my students, I told her, I was honest with her, she didn't really have the background to be working on a problem like the Riemann hypothesis. But it's frustrating, but it's like anything else. If you were a architect, there's a lot of groundwork that you have to do, but the final product is the thing that's so gratifying once you see the final product. The background planning and the strategy, the things that go wrong, you can spend a week on a calculation and end up throwing it in the trash. It didn't go anywhere. One thing that's helped me with, especially with the work that I do with Einstein, it would be impossible to do it without a computer. I learned that the hard way. I went to, I believe it was in Argentina, and I had solved, I did by brute force, a solution of Einstein equation. I might have spent 2 or 3 weeks solving it. And then it was a kid, a student. Mm-hmm. He showed me a Maple program. He said, all you do is type in the metric, a few other things, and in 2 seconds, you get the solution. And I'm saying to myself, oh, that's so crazy that I couldn't think of that. This is just a kid, a student, you know. So that's just helped me tremendously. I learned from the student how to do this Maple program. So that really accelerated my interest in not having the fear to just try to find other solutions of Einstein equation. Then there'd be people like Panos, who would give problems to work on. He's still kind of a genius in my mind. I like to work on my own problems, but he's such a good human being and such a great mathematician. He will give me a problem to work on. Me and a couple of other people might work together on it. So that's stimulative. And again, you have to pick your battles. It might be like the agony of watching the Kansas City Chiefs go so far close to the Super Bowl and then miss it by being being ahead 18 points and still losing the game. You know, it's exhilarating and then frustration at the same time. But you still have to do your work honestly, be willing to put in the work. I come home at night, sometimes I'm tired, but you have to be consistent, still be willing to do the work. But let me just say this, and I don't mean it in no sense, I would never say this to be braggadocious, but I remember a man named Clarence Mack in college. He said something to me many, many years ago. He said, you're consistent. And I didn't quite understand what that meant. But it turned out he was talking about himself because, one day he wanted to be a lawyer. The next day he wanted to be a government official. The next day he wanted to be a politician, not the next day, but the next year or whatever. And he just saw me just being consistent with learning music and learning mathematics. So that kind of stuck with me all through the years, to be consistent. Just be consistent if you can. And that's, I realize that when I come home at night, I might be tired, work 2 jobs, the ministry and then the science, but to be consistent, to try to put in a couple of hours, even though I'm tired, and then luckily, sometimes I forget that I'm tired because I might end up solving the problem or making progress on a problem. Then I forget all about being tired. Well, I was at such a low. I do have a story about what I saw at MIT because I was just. I always say once you get your PhD, you start at the bottom. You start the line forms at the rear. You're nobody. You're at the end of the line. You're nobody. So there were two great mathematicians. I don't want to call their names, but one in particular. But well, those two in particular, they were very competitive about their work. And there was a conference, and I remember what I'll call Paul Sally's name because he was not so much involved in it. He said he never saw so much blood on the floor. In other words, at this conference, people were presenting their results, and then one person might raise their hand and say, "Well, wait a minute, that's part of something I proved. You know, where's my credit for this work that you're presenting?" That's the type of atmosphere, but that didn't always prevail. At MIT, there was some shouting. There was a personality clashes where people were just dogmatic about the way. Now, I make it broad because I'm not being very specific. The way that the universe should work. And if you disagree with it, they make it very personal. So I think it's better if people agree to disagree. And if you begin to be too dogmatic sometimes, it has an advantage, but it can also have a disadvantage. You can paint yourself into a corner where your thinking is on a track that's not versatile enough to be open to other ideas. Generally speaking, though, most of the conferences that I've attended, that didn't occur.
Okay.
I was at a conference in Japan, I think it was Japan, and there was a young student. Well, he was a professor, but he just got his PhD or whatever. He was presenting some results, and I politely said to him that that was after his lecture was over. I said some of the statements that you made, I do have those published in the paper. They're not questions anymore, you know. But I was very polite. I didn't want to embarrass him. And then that was the end of it. No hostility and nothing of the sort.